Hi and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at possibly the two best electric guitars under $200. Now we have the Firefly FFTL and we have the Jackson JS22. These are $199 new plus tax, and these are I believe $179 new plus shipping. And with the shipping they both and the tax on this one, they both come out to be about the exact same price, final dollar out the door. Now, these really probably are the best two guitars I've played in this price range, and that's $200 or less. Now with the Jackson, we have an a poplar body, and we have the arch top. With the Firefly, we have a mahogany body, and while it's got a single cut telly style body, everything else is set up more like the Jackson. It's basically a super strat with a T-style body. Right off the bat, this one is heavier. The Firefly is heavier than the Jackson, and every Firefly I've owned has been a little heavier than I would have thought they'd be. However, they're very solid, well-made guitars, so it's just they use mahogany bodies, and maybe that's part of the reason compared to the poplar. Now, let's talk about the bodies. We have contours, a little one on the inner horn here, and a little bit of a scoop back here on the heel, nothing major. We do have recessed plates, whereas here we have a nice carved heel joint. The lower horn has a cutout. We have a belly carve on both. And we have a recessed control plate, but the trim cover is not recessed on the Firefly. The Firefly does have, like a normal Strat, it has an arm contour. And that is a personal preference for me. I like the arm contours. The arch top I don't find quite as comfortable, but these are both extremely comfortable to play. This is just a personal preference for me, liking the arm contours. Now, both have maple necks. However, Firefly is listed as a roasted maple versus the standard maple. We have an amaranth fretboard with 24 jumbo frets and a bound fretboard on the Jackson. On the Firefly, we have a rosewood fretboard. They're not listed, but they feel like medium jumbo, stainless steel ball and frets. These are very nice feeling. We have a 24 frets versus 22 frets, and we have a 12 to 16 compound radius versus a 16 radius here. So both really good for speed, nice flat fretboards. The Jackson has more of a speed neck. The Firefly is a nice thin C, but I think it would feel more like a Strat neck than like a Jackson, a Kramer, an Ibanez. It's just a little more rounded, but very comfortable, nice and slim, nice flat fretboard, so very comfortable to play. We have a plastic nut on the Jackson, whereas we have a bone nut on the Firefly. And the tuners are standard sealed tuners on the Jackson. And we have locking tuners on the Firefly. However, we have the angled headstock with no string guides on the Jackson, and we have the straight headstock with 2 string guides on the Firefly. Okay, as far as the trim loads, they both have a 2-point trim with full-size blocks, which is rare in this price range. In fact, these are the only two guitars I know that have them, but you can see even through the plates that they have full-size blocks or large blocks. Both have 6 independent saddles. We have a volume and a tone. We have a 3-way switch. However, even though it's a 3-way switch on the Firefly, it does have coil split, as both have humbuckers. Now you can check out my review to hear the coil split. But I think that both sound good. I do think that the Jackson has a little more rock to metal sound, whereas the Firefly has a little more blues to classic rock sound. But I thought both sounded great. Now, there are Alnico pickups in the Firefly. They are ceramic in the Jackson. Some people that matters. I could just go off how it sounds, and I think both sound really good. Overall, they're both extremely comfortable guitars to play. They both sound good. They've both held up very well, being played pretty hard. I've had the Firefly longer. I've owned multiple Jacksons. The Jacksons always seem to hold up just fine. And this is my fourth Firefly. They've been great. My first Firefly I still own, so I can't complain about either guitar. It's really going to come down, do you want something that has a little bit more of a Strat feel to the neck, or a little more of a modern speed feel to the neck? This is a little flatter. This has a little more C-shape. Both are very comfortable. I don't even know that it's that much thicker, to be honest with you. I think it's more the rounding than it is the thickness. A little thicker. But both are extremely comfortable. You know, your fretboard has your trapezoid or your shark fin inlays here. You have some, I guess it's pearloid, so they call that pearloid inlays here on the Firefly. But both are very comfortable. So you get a little more sound options out of the Firefly. And technically you have better hardware, having the bone nut, the locking tuners, Alnico pickups. But I've had no tuning problems out of either guitar. I've played the Jackson a lot. I do a lot of bending because I do play a lot of blues still. And it holds tune really well. As far as personal preference, honestly, I'm split between the two because I'm a big fan of the contours on the Firefly. I like the sound of the pickups better in the Jackson and the little speedier neck, I think. They both feel great. The frets on the Firefly are definitely better than the frets on the Jackson as far as how they feel. But I don't think you can go wrong with either guitar. I'm really, from my point of view, this is more of a blues classic rock guitar, and this is more of a rock to metal guitar. It's kind of that simple. But I don't think you go wrong with either guitar, and you could change out the pickups in either guitar to make them sound however you'd like. That's obviously a very common thing nowadays. But just straight out of the box, both were set up well. In fact, I didn't adjust the action on either guitar. I don't think there was anything I had to do to either, or have done to either guitar, except I did put strings on the Firefly eventually. The Jackson's due for some new strings, but I haven't done that yet. So these are two great guitars for $200. The one thing I will say about Firefly is, even though this has a really cool finish, you can see this two-tone finish here, Jackson has a better finish. And what I mean by that is, every Firefly I've owned has had a little, either a little spot in the finish that just, like a little piece of sand under it, like this one has right here on the neck side, right there. You can't really see it, but right where this third finger is, there's a little bump right there where there's some sand or dust, a little wood chip, something that got caught under the paint. You might see a little scratch spot or a little spot that's kind of hazy looking. Usually nothing very noticeable. I don't usually see it for a day or two or feel it for a day or two, but I have had a little bit of a blemish spot on every Firefly I've had, where the Jackson does not have that. And every Jackson I've owned, the longest one was 2.5 years, aged extremely well. The Fireflies, they've done the same. They pretty much look the same as the day I bought them. I've had one now for a couple of years with the LP styles. So I can't say that the finish is a less quality as far as the materials used, just that everyone I've seen, the finish just isn't quite as nice as the finish on the Jackson. However, they're not a bad finish by any means, and for this price range, they're great. Absolutely. Okay, well, that is the Firefly FFTL and the Jackson JS22. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this kind of content, please click like and subscribe. Click the bell icon to stay notified. Leave me some comments and suggestions. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, keep playing.